did lose a ton of talent. And I want to start by saying, too, like, when they first hired Mick Cronin in 2019, I was
And we are back. Welcome to another episode of the Get It Bucket podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron. And as always, I'm joined by my guy, Kev. What's going on, brother?
got to be back. College basketball, as always, has been amazing so far. It's been a minute, but, you know, we here. It is what it is. Been some good games. Been some upsets per usual. Been some big dogs that have gone down. Been some couple big dogs in Purdue and UConn that have stayed up, but I've enjoyed it. I'm loving every single minute of it. It's been a good season so far, and we barely, start in conference play, so I think it's only going to get better and better.
Yeah, bro. And you glistening with the new camera, bro. Glistening, bro. The new camera. See what happens when you get a new camera, HD and all that, 4K, whatever the new cameras are.
Shout out to my pops, man.
Yep. So, but yeah, like you said, a lot of craziness going on in college basketball. And speaking of craziness, Kev, first of all, this show is brought to you by SeatGeek, the official partner of the Off the Ball Network. Use promo code Off the Ball Network. Get $20 off your first purchase. We got college basketball season. We got college football bowl games. We got NBA action. We got a lot of stuff. You want to take your girl to the movie, to a Broadway play, whatever. Make sure to use the promo code Off the Ball Network, all caps. $20 off your first purchase. Make sure to go on SeatGeek.com. Your number one place for all your ticket needs. But Kev, speaking of craziness, and we talked about this pre-show, and I had just seen this. I heard about it and seen it. But Brad Underwood, he had a very interesting presser. So that Illinois, loses by double digits to Penn State, and he came at his team hard. Essentially, they ain't got no heart. They ain't at this, and then he even gave us a, and I'm not joking. That's exactly what he did. Like it's like when my son doesn't listen, he does, or he does that and try to. I just found myself just laughing, like, yo, he was coaching, and it was, and then he had said some stuff about Matthew Meyer, leadership and all that. Kind of brought down his player and all that, and his team overall. And then Matthew Meyer, they had him on, and there was, he kind of just said, essentially he just said, I ain't gonna say what I want to say, or else I'm gonna get kicked off the team. So let me just keep it. I'm gonna keep it peaceful right now, and that's it. And so kind of a interesting situation there, with that, So first, what's your thoughts on this? Because that's that was wild. That's wild for a coach to do that, and like just to back, like Matthew Meyer, he's coming from Baylor. He's a national champion. First of all, coming from a great program, a coach that's widely respected, not by just his peers, but by his players and all that. With Scott Drew. So it's like, you come to and you play with Brad Underwood, and Brad Underwood's hardcore, old school, Bob Huggins style to coaching. So like that was a pretty interesting situation. And so what's your thoughts on that? And do you think there's more to it that can maybe affect Illinois going down? Because this is a team like, got some good W's, to beat Texas, to beat UCLA. They got good wins. So it's like, it's kind of weird that this is going on and all that. But what's your read on that whole situation? Because it was real wild.
So as we're speaking right now, they're playing in the bragging rights, which is their rivalry game between them and Missouri, and they're down 25 points with 8 minutes left in the second half, and this game has not been close whatsoever. So going back to that situation, as you mentioned, against Penn State, where they lost at home, I mean, first of all, I want to say Penn State is a good team. If you haven't watched Jalen Pickett play, that's been one of the best point guards in the country. Michael Shrewsbury is doing an excellent job with that program. I think they're only going to get better and better out there in Happy Valley. But that loss was inexcusable. And it's not even so much about the loss, it's about how it took place. It was like Penn State literally went into their crib in Champaign and just stomped all over them. And they
Mm-hmm.
did not respond whatsoever. They made a couple of runs to try and keep it close, but at the end of the day, they just did not have enough fight. And they just honestly kind of just lacked the toughness and the mental capacity to get back into that game. And so with Brad doing that at the post game presser, it was kind of, to me, it was a little bit worrisome and concerning because it wasn't as dramatic as a lot of people made it seem, because this team is,
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, led by veterans who haven't been in the program like that, like Terrence Shannon, you mentioned Matthew Mayer, Dane
Yeah.
Danger, older guys, but again, they haven't been around, so they don't really know Illinois basketball from Brad Underwood's
Mm-hmm.
perspective. But like I'm looking at it like, man, like you say that, and then your team goes into a rivalry game in tonight's game, and they're getting blown out like this, and it's like clearly it's some type of miscommunication or some type of just falling apart that's really not connecting between the players and the coaches. And he said it's a lack of accountability right now. It's a lack of leadership. He said that in their practices leading up to that Penn State game that Terrence Shannon Jr. was just kind of all over the place and he wasn't being the leader that he kind of expected
Yeah.
him to be. So I don't know. Like, you guys know, I predicted this team to win the Big Ten. I still think they have the most talent of any team in the Big Ten, but we all know talent doesn't always just win you games. You can ask Kentucky fans about that. But
Mm-hmm.
me personally, like, I am kind of worried, man, because this the thing with Brad Underwood is that he hasn't really had that much success come March time. Like, when he
No,
had
no.
Kofi and AO a couple years ago, they lost to Loyola Chicago. Like, you could have lost to anybody else, but you can't lose to an interstate school. You know what I'm saying? Especially a
No.
much smaller school than you. And so, like, we'll see. Big Ten season is rapidly approaching, right around the corner, just like all the other conferences. But if you're an Illini fan, it should be a little, cause for concern and worry right now, because this is not what you want, heading into conference play.
Yeah, and they're going to be 0-3 in conference play. So that's not good. That's not a good way to start. And I think one thing that worries about me with Illinois is they have the talent, obviously, right? They got so much talent. Terrence Shannon, Meyer, Coleman Hawkins, Sky Clark. Like, they got a boatload of talent. They just can't shoot.
Yep.
They can't shoot. And we know when it gets to, March, like, if you can't shoot, you can get bounced in the first round easily. And I think that's something that's very, very concerning. And even in their last game, I forgot what they played, Alabama A&M or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They shot like 3 of 20 or something like that. And they just even you just go back to the beginning of the season, they just can't hit the three. And I think that's very important. Because they got guys who can knock it down, but it just seems like it's just very inconsistent right now. And then now we don't know the vibe of this team. Like, is that Mario looked like he wasn't feeling what was said and all that. Like, he took that very personal. And like you said, they're playing Missouri right now and they're getting absolutely railroaded. Absolutely railroaded. And I don't think Sky Clark has a point, or the Coleman Hawkins, I think, has, last time I checked, he had like 4 points and all that. So they have not shot the ball or played the defense. So it's, I don't know. I don't know if this is things we should be way more concerned. And 0-3 in conference play already. And I don't know who they play next. I got to check who up there against next.
And I'll say with that, like, the
Don't
biggest
put
thing
them on the
too,
North and Northwestern. So they got a couple games that they should win.
and with that, it's like they're very dependent on their freshmen too. Like, Sky Clark is their starting point guard. Jaden Epps is going to be a big time player for them down the line.
Yeah.
Like, Sincere Harris,
RJ Melendez too. Like, I know he's a sophomore, but like he's been very up and down.
They need Sincere Harris. So, like, they're kind of like, again, I mentioned they're an older team, but again, a lot of those guys outside of what Coleman Hawkins, RJ Melendez, like, a lot of those guys have not been there in the program, so they don't really know what to expect from Brad Underwood. That's kind of the thing with the transfer portal, is like, you're kind of taking a risk, because it's different when you bring in a freshman. You're kind of like getting them prepared to learn what it's like. You're teaching them the ins and the outs of the game. But when you got a experienced guy that's played in big time atmospheres like Matthew Mayer has before, like, your expectations are much, much different and very, very higher. So it's gonna be interesting to see where the line I go from here, man.
Yeah, very interesting to see what goes on from here. with Illinois because that's very interesting. And like I said, that presser that was just I I don't know if that's the I don't know if that was the right way to go about it. It felt very childish in a way too. Like
Very.
very it didn't feel right. Like that this is like okay, like yeah, you lost, but it's like there's other I feel like there was other ways you could have handled that. So I don't know. It's he's a very intense coach. I get that, but it just felt like could have done there's better ways to communicate with your team and get the message sent across that hey, I'm not accepting what's going on. So we'll see what happens in Champaign. We'll see if they can figure it out. They got the talent to do it, but we got to see 0-3 in conference play is not a good way to start off. So let's see if they bounce back. Their next conference game is against Northwestern, so we'll see how they do in that. But let's go to Chapel Hill, North Carolina Tar Heels. They were, I think, the last time we talked, they were on a 4-game losing streak. It looked like a good, tough teams too. So like we have to put that in perspective too. Like
Yep.
all like Iowa State, Alabama, Indiana, Virginia, like they lost to some pretty solid teams. So got to put that in perspective. So, but they've been on a roll. They've kind of looked like, the North Carolina we maybe have thought back-to-back wins versus Big Ten teams in Michigan and Ohio State and all that. So, is UNC back, or are they just teasing us again?
I want to say they're back because like their issues were very simple to fix in my opinion. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have to play UNC style basketball, and what I mean by that is you need to run your offense through your post player. Armando Bacot was one of the best bigs in the country. Crash the boards, the offensive rebounds, and the defensive boards. Play defense and just take good shots. Like we've always mentioned, their shot selection has been terrible, and it's not just Caleb Love.
Awful.
Same
Awful.
like even with RJ Davis, like RJ Davis has not been playing that well, but he's been playing a little bit better as of late. But Pete Nance has been consistent, so I want to say they're back. The ACC is in an interesting spot right now. I think Virginia Tech is good, Virginia is good,
Mm-hmm.
Miami's good. Of course, Duke is still good, even though they lost to Wake Forest. So I still think they're in that upper echelon, that top 5 I just mentioned. So it's hard for me to say that they're back. I'll say for now they are back. I think they should, finish like top 3 in the ACC, which isn't saying too much, but it also kind of is. But they've looked better, and I think that's just like their issues were not like a rocket science equation. You know what I'm saying? Like they weren't that hard to fix. They just were playing a bad brand of basketball. And now they just have to learn to trust in each other, understand that this is a new team, understand that they don't have to listen to all the outside noise because they've been getting praised all off season and going into the season. So now it's just about locking in, trusting each other, trusting the system, trusting their coaches, and putting it all together on the court. And for the past few games, they showed that.
Yeah, and like you said, feeding the big man. And like he's had, I think, over 23 points, I think, these last 2 games and all that. And, and you saw in that 4-game losing streak, he wasn't getting enough post touches. He wasn't be able to finish a lot. And it's kind of like they're like, all right, well, that guy helped us get to a national championship last year. Maybe we should go back to that. Because, like you said, their shot selection was wild. That 4-game, like, that's some of the worst shot selection you're going to see in the team. Like, with Caleb Love and RJ Davis and all that, like they were taking some wild shots and all that. But it seems like they're getting back to what got them to the national championship. Playing inside. That's there's not a lot of people that are going to be able to start Armando Bacot. Like, let's just be real. There's not a lot of guys. So go back then playing, and he's getting his post touches, he's finishing and all that. And, if he's scoring 20 plus points, 25, 26, 28, you're going to win the game. You're going to win the game. So it feels like they're finally getting back to, what helped them got to the national championship last year.
And he severely outplayed Hunter Dickinson in that game versus Michigan.
Yeah.
Like, that's not easy to do whatsoever. Y'all know I'm a Michigan State fan. Like, I don't want to give Michigan credit because they're not that good, but Hunter Dickinson is a hell of a player. And they actually did play together with each other on the EYBL back in their AAU days for Team Takeover out of the DMV. So they know each other very well. And Armando made a statement in that game.
Yeah, he dominated him. What, Dickinson had like 8 points, something like that?
Yep.
And so he didn't he kept them in check, and that's what they got to do. They got to continue that blueprint if they want to, get where they want to be, and back to that national championship picture. So, but they are definitely looking solid again, and we'll see how they, if they continue, this strategy and feed the big man. You not a lot of guys can stop him. So, it seems like they're going away. So you got 26 and then 28 against Ohio State. Like, they can score with the best of them in the country. It's just a matter of making stops too.
Exactly.
They make the stops. They're going to be all right. So, but they got Pitt coming up, Wake, who just beat Duke, Notre Dame, Virginia. So they can rack up some wins, and then Louisville, that's a win. So sorry, Louisville. I feel like we gotta throw shade at Louisville at least once. They did get another win though. They won 2 in a row.
About time.
It was about time, but then they lose to schools that you're like, why did you lose to that school? Why did you lose to Lipscomb? I don't even know if that's the correct way of saying it, but how'd you lose a school that Lipscomb? Like, come on now. Come on now. But sorry, Louisville. You got to get mentioned at least once a show. But we'll see what happens with UNC. But let's head out to the SEC. And we had talked about the loss of Trayvon Brazil, with the knee, and how much, big injury, seemed like he was really coming to his own. A guy that's a freak athlete, who could shoot from the outside. I mean, a real mismatch. And felt like that would be dangerous once we get Nick Smith back. But little do we know that there will be no Nick Smith coming back, because most likely, they say it isn't definitely, but most likely he's probably done for the year with the knee. So 2 huge injuries for Arkansas. And this is a team that we were kind of really high on. Thought that they could be a potential Final Four national championship type of team. And they just lost 2 very, very important pieces to this team. So, they still got Anthony Black, still got Ricky Council, who's skyrocketing. That man, he's skyrocketing up draft boards and all that for sure. Like he's been maybe one of the biggest risers, in college basketball this year. So he's made a lot of noise this year. But what's the outlook with the for Arkansas? Like, can they still be one of the top tier teams in the SEC? Can they still be a potential national, Final Four national championship team with 2 huge losses? Talk to me about Arkansas.
So I think they're going to take a little bit. They're going to take a few lumps and bruises here and there, but I do think in totality, I think they're going to be fine because, first of all, they've already played games without Nick Smith, and they did have Trayvon Brazil at the time, so it's give and take. But they already know what it's like not to play with them, and they played competitively against a couple good teams in that stretch, like Texas Tech and Creighton. We'll talk about later, but a couple other teams too, San Diego State. So they know what it's like not to have Nick Smith Jr. And it definitely sucks. And that indefinitely word is so tricky because, usually that means it's something kind of drastic. I know it's just knee management. They're trying to kind of protect his stock for the NBA draft, which is fine. I completely understand it. Like
100% understand
whatsoever. So it sucks being the college basketball fans that we are, because we want to see the best players on the court. And we know that in sports, period, injuries are just terrible. But for them, I just think, like, as you mentioned, Anthony Black is going to have to do a little bit more carrying. Same thing. Ricky Council is going to get more shots, which I think he'll be happily, to take. Jordan Walsh, same thing. Like, he's going to have to step up a little bit. Jalen Graham's playing a little bit more, of course, with Brazil going down, the transfer from Arizona State. So, like, I trust in Muss. I know I've said that plenty of times on this podcast. You guys are probably tired of hearing me say that, but I trust in what Eric Musselman has done before. He's literally coached on every single level possible that you can in the coaching profession, from the NBA to the G League, overseas, whatever it is. He's literally been there, done that twice around. You know what I'm saying? So I still have faith in him. I think another part of that too is just that, like, let's call a spade a spade. Like, the middle to the bottom tier of the SEC this year is not that good. Like, it's literally just, Tennessee, Arkansas, Alabama, and then Kentucky, and then it's like a big drop off right there, you know. So outside of that, like I think they'll be fine, man. It sucks again. You don't want to see anybody get hurt, especially a guy that's going to be a lottery pick in this upcoming NBA draft. But
Mm-hmm.
I trust in Arkansas, man. I really do. I think Muss is just that guy, and I think a guy like Anthony Black at the point guard and Ricky Council at the two, like I think they thrive in these type of moments and situations. So I think they'll be fine. But again, they might take a couple losses here and there, you know, as expected is going to happen. But once they start to figure it out and understand, okay, this is what we need from certain guys now with these two dudes out, I think Arkansas is going to be fine.
Yeah, I think obviously, like I said, it is a hit. But you still got two really, you got two All American type players on your team still. So there's not a lot of teams that can afford to lose the players that they're losing, and Nick Smith and Trayvon Brazil, and recover from that. But like you said, you trust Muss and you trust the system, and they, like I said, Black is a really good player, and you expect other guys to step up, and we got to see hopefully Walsh starts getting in the groove and starts and that should be coming. So if that happens, boom, you got that. So I still have faith in them. Like I said, those two guys, Ricky Council and Black are the real deals and all that. So they got two guys that I feel like can carry, and especially Ricky Council, man. He's that dude, man. He's special. So. Yeah, confident. I just love it. I think he's kind of been the flavor of the. It feels like every week we got a new player flavor. It feels like it's his time. And he's definitely has special traits and all that. So, but yeah, I think I still think they'll be all right. And then let's see, they got LSU, Missouri, Auburn, Alabama. Some tough games. We got to see what if what this Missouri team is. Are they the real deal and all that? They obviously, we just saw them. They're up 22 versus top 16 Illinois team. So we'll see. That's going to be a test for Arkansas, but I think they'll be all right for the most part. Like I said, the SEC is what you got. Tennessee, like you mentioned, you got Kentucky. It's kind of top heavy, and all that. So we'll see. Bama, of course, too. Bama's a kind of great squad too, and all that. Let's talk. You know what? I didn't expect to talk about Bama, but let's talk about Bama. They got obviously Brandon Miller is that boy. He's that dude. Like, he's so special. I know. I saw a lot of people like picking apart his game because like his he's not a super athlete. Sometimes got great at finishing, but I'm like, if I get him in the right program at the next level, that stuff can be taught. I mean, he can light it up from deep and all that. Like, he could take over games. Like, and we've seen him do that. Like, we've seen him do that. So like he has like next level, like all-star potential traits that I absolutely love. So what are you feeling about Bama? I mean, they got some dogs too. Clowney, is another one. Obviously they got Mark Sears and all that. So they got some guys, but obviously Brandon Miller is, he's shooting 44% from three, and not like a couple threes. Like, no, he shoot. I don't know. I forgot the exact number of when I saw. It's got to be over 70 or 83, something like that. So he's shooting at, at a high clip and at an efficient rate. And that to me is, and he's 6'9". And it's hard to block his shot and all that. Like, I know he has some things he got to work on as far as, getting to the basket, but he could shoot that thing already. And I think that's something that, when people get to see him more and more, when we get to tourney time and all that, he's gonna be like skyrocketing too. So what we feeling about Bama right now?
It's actually crazy too because him and Nick Smith played for Bradley Bill Elite, which is Bradley Bill's AU team out of the Missouri area, which is insane to think about looking back at it. But I actually like this Bama team a lot, man. Again, you look at Brandon Miller, I think that dude has NBA All-Star potential and probably more than likely will be more than a few times down the line as his career progresses. Jaden Bradley's another freshman. Like this quartet of freshmen between Brandon Miller, Jaden Bradley, Rylan Griffin, and the last one, Noah Clowney, man. Like you mentioned, 6'10". That's another guy. His stock is going through the roof right now.
Yeah,
Like,
they got size, man, and that's with
man,
Yako too. Like the sophomore, like he's another one who's had some pretty good games too. So they have a great balance.
exactly. I think that's the thing about them and like UConn. UConn beat them by 15 in Portland at the PK 85, but
Mm-hmm.
they can just beat you in a variety of different ways. Like Brandon Miller himself is going to keep Alabama in most games, just by being him. Jaden
Yep.
Bradley in that game versus Houston, man, he really showed out. Like really showed out. Like Javon Quinley went and told Nate Oates himself, like, Coach, don't put me back in the game because Jaden is playing that good. He was orchestrating in the pick and roll, just making plays, not even for himself, but just for others. Find the open teammate and just getting them good, high quality shots. And so, like, they have a lot of pieces. Javon Quinley is only, I think, like 8 months removed from tearing his ACL
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
tournament last year versus Notre
Mm-hmm.
Dame. He's back. You mentioned Mark Sears. I think Mark Sears is kind of like the biggest question mark just because that he's taken a lot of shots, and I think he has to understand, like, down the line that at Ohio that was fine, but at Alabama now, like, no offense, but like you're probably not even like a top 4 option offensively right now, and that's not a knock by any means. That's just
Mm-hmm.
it just shows you how talented Alabama is, and so like he has to understand that you don't really have to take that many shots. Like you can find teammates, and if you just spot up, like your teammates are gonna find you too. Like it works hand in hand. So I think that'll probably be my only concern. But Nados has assembled a hell of a roster. This team, looks like easily one of the better teams in the SEC. And as you mentioned, the best thing about him with Betty Yako is that they finally guard. Like that's been one of the bigger knocks with Nate Oates because his second year he was blessed with Herb Jones, and we all know what Herb Jones is doing right now in the
That's a
NBA.
lockdown right there.
Exactly, and in college he was just a different animal. He could literally guard all 5 dudes by himself pretty much. And so you had a cheat code in Herb Jones, and that kind of like made it look like he coached defense. But
Mm-hmm.
last year they were up and down with Jaden Shackelford. They were just up and down. But this year again, they played defense, and to go into an environment like Houston and get a win like that
That
is impressive, and it's not easy whatsoever. So they made a statement in that game. They made a statement while they were out in Portland. I know they played that ugly and horrific, 4 overtime game against North Carolina, but
wow, that was bad. Yeah.
regardless, this Bama team is legit. They're for real. Brandon Miller is a stud. He's playing like one of the best players, not even just freshman. He's one of the best players in the country. Like, forget
Country, yeah.
freshman.
All American
Exactly.
levels there.
And so
And he didn't have a great. He did not play well against Houston.
I don't think he made a shot, and they
Nah,
still won. But that
yeah,
shows you how good this team is, man. Like that's a lot of teams they can't afford for their best player. I think he was like, they can't
yeah.
afford.
He only
their
had
best
like
player
8
for
points,
08.
I think. He had 8.
Exactly.
He had 8 points. No
So
threes. Literally, all his points were from the free throw line. So he did not literally get a bucket. He didn't get one.
exactly, and like again, most teams they can't afford their best player to have an off night like that. Like that's just if your best player is not like, for instance, my team, if Tyson Walker shoots like that, we're not winning the game. Like I'm just being honest. So, Bama man, they got it, and this team they've clearly bought into whatever Nate Oates has been selling them, and they could definitely be a Final Four team. Man, they have enough offense just to match their defense, and they're going to be as the SEC progresses throughout this season. They're only going to get better and better because their freshmen are intricate parts of this team, and they've not even hit their ceiling. Brandon Miller is probably close-ish, but outside of that, like again, Rylan Griffin is good. Noah Conley is only going to get better and better and better. And
Yeah,
the same thing goes for Jaden Bradley.
He had a good game against. He's the one that stood out to me in that win versus Houston. He made some big shots, because like I said, Brandon Miller did not make a bucket at all, and Clowney definitely showed out and definitely stepped up when they needed the most, and they played defense, like you said. They played defense against Houston, and that's something that Houston needs to figure out, because Jerice Walker didn't have a great game and all that. So I feel like Houston can get when their offense isn't clicking, it feels like they can, they can definitely fall to a lot of teams. So, but that was a big win. That was a big win. But this Bama team's good. Brandon Miller is legit. And all that, they have all the pieces to definitely to make a run, and do some things, for sure, in the SEC and maybe down the line. But we're gonna do this weekly, every show. We are Michigan State and Duke. We're going to talk about our teams. That's going to be constant. So Kev, the floor is yours. Let's talk about your Michigan State Spartans. How are we feeling about them so far?
Man, we've played a couple like cupcakes. We played Oakland yesterday, which Oakland is I think like 2-11 or something like that. They're not good, but they always give us a tough game, just like Northwestern does. Really, we beat Brown, which of course, Ivy League school. That's not nothing crazy.
Yeah.
Like we played cupcakes, going into the finals and Christmas break and things like that. So we'll be back in Big Ten play very soon. But I like where we're at. I think we play against Buffalo and then we're in Big Ten games. But I do like where this team is at. And I think the biggest reason I do is because we haven't seen the best of Jaden Akins yet, and he hasn't been fully healthy. And Izzo said he's been progressing towards that because I think we had like a 9-day break between playing Brown and Oakland yesterday, and he's starting to get to himself and what he is when he's fully healthy. He had a career high. He had a career high in points last night in 15 versus Oakland. Again, it's Oakland, but still, like for him to just get his confidence going, that takes us from a good team to an even better team. And I think we need him for that. And Malik Hall is returning soon. He's supposed to be back around, this time in a few days. The walking boot is off. He's been practicing a little bit more, picking it up day by day. So I like where my team is at. AJ Hogarth has been steady, solid. That's all I could ever ask for him. Tyson Walker has been amazing. Joey Hauser has been playing like a fifth-year senior, even better than that in some games, of course, against Kentucky. So I like where we're at, man, especially because the Big Ten has been so like up and down. Like Maryland was hot to start the season. They've kind of come back to life. Illinois just got humbled tonight versus Missouri. Wisconsin's been pretty good. I got to give them their credit. Michigan doesn't look that good. Purdue, they looked amazing when they beat you guys and they beat Gonzaga, but they went to OT versus Nebraska. They kind of struggled. So, like honestly, I think it's a league that's really up for grabs. And come March time, what other coach would you rather trust more in than Tom Izzo? So, I like where my squad is at personally, man. I think again we should only get better and better as the season progresses. So I truly believe that this team could make a lot of noise, in the Big Ten this year.
What's going on with Sissoko? Like I felt like we saw him against early in the season, Gonzaga. What was it, Kentucky game? Like play up. Like he was ready for those games. Really ready for those games, and it just feels like he's kind of gone away. I kind of feel like he's going to be an integral part for you guys to get to where you want to be. So what have you seen from him that's kind of been, not right, since that, those first couple games?
It's weird because going into the season, I didn't even predict Madi was going to start. Like, I'll be honest. I thought we were going to play small ball. I thought we were going to start our 3 guards between Hogarth, Walker, and Akins, and then we're going to run Malik Hall and Joey Hauser and just play small ball, kind of like Illinois is right now.
Yeah.
And Madi was a revelation. As you mentioned, he was great in the game against Kentucky. He was very solid against Drew Timme, even though Drew Timme went off in the second half. He kind of got into foul trouble. But, like those performances, the thing about them is that what people have to understand, when he's scoring, is largely in part of AJ Hogarth. And that's kind of what AJ Hogarth does. He's an elite floor general. He makes guys around him better. You go and look at Madi's buckets, they're either lobs or good passes coming off the pick and roll. Like, AJ does that. So, like, Madi's kind of one of them guys where he's not a star. I know Dickie V said this guy could be a potential star in the Kentucky game. Like, I didn't want to go that far because I know it wasn't that, but he's still good. I don't want to make it seem like he's a star or anything like that, but he'll be fine. He just has to learn to just be consistent because this is real first year of playing like big consistent minutes because this guy's raw. Like, he hasn't been playing basketball for that long. He's been playing basketball for maybe like 6 years max. So I'm not too worried about him. I think, again, the more he plays, he should only get better and better, which I think is a good thing for this team because we kind of need that rim protector, shot blocker, and that guy that can kind of, get us some easy looks in the paint, which haven't come easy to us at all this season so far. So we kind of need that. But I'm not too worried about him again because I didn't really have that many expectations from him. So we'll see. Again, I think Madi has been solid. I think the best thing about him is he sets good screens. I know that sounds like corny and cliche, but like he really does. No. He makes life easier for AJ to get around, Tyson Walker to get his look. So that's the best thing he's doing for us right now. If he can just crash the boards a little bit more, that's all I ask for him. I don't need anything more than that. Maybe a couple post touches and makes throughout the course of a game at the most, but he's solid, man. I wasn't expecting him to be great. I really wasn't expecting him to be a factor whatsoever. So for him to do what he's done so far is a big luxury for me, and I know it is for Coach Izzo.
Yep. And like you said, you ended it with Coach Izzo. At the end of the day, man, this is certain coaches you just trust. I got to figure it out. And Coach is. I know people, and we talked about this before. People be like, "Well, he hasn't won a national championship since 2000 with the team Claves and all that." It's like I don't care, man. I just know like we've had battles. Our teams have had battles in the NCAA tournament, and I've seen him. He took down the team that we thought was going to go undefeated. And Zion, Cam, and RJ. That squad. Like he figured that Duke team out and beat them. In that Elite Eight. It still bothers me, bro. I remember where I was. I remember I had to go all the way to drop my son off like 3 hours away. Pissed I had to do that. Come back, I had the game on the radio. I'm like, oh, I'm stressed. I'm doing like a buck and change on the highway. I'm like, I got to get back to at least watch the final. And I got home, got the Final Four. I'm standing, stressed, still sick. There's certain losses that one still hurts. Yeah, we got it. Oh, I was happy. I was happy as a motherfucker. I was like, yes, yeah, we got some revenge and all that. But you guys are gonna be all right. You guys always have faith in you guys. But speaking of Duke, let's go to my Duke Blue. We're at a nice little win streak, and then Wake Forest took us down. I think they beat us by like 10 or 11 points, but I don't know. This like I've talked about this all year with Duke, like kind of been up and down with them and all that, and it didn't. I think we had 5 or 6 guys that we let Wake Forest had like 6 guys that had like 10 plus points and all that, and it just feels like it was the same thing. Our Flopowski didn't play well, and all that. Proctor was again up and down and all that. And Roach was solid and all that, but it was just a disappointing performance and all that. I don't think Derek played or Lively played, but and you're gonna need those guys, and those guys have been kind of dealing with the injuries essentially the whole year, and it's kind of hurt their stock. So that also makes me wonder if maybe they might shut it down too, like if something like that. We might see some of that because their draft stock could be hurting. Big time, especially like Lively and all that. But disappointing loss for sure. But I'm wondering, I think this Duke team. I've talked about this. This Duke team really worries me. They worry me big time, and I don't know. I don't know. It's one of the weirdest Duke teams I've ever got to watch. I just don't know the feeling of this team, and feels like every game is a new person. We got I think he had like 17 or whatever. It just feels like it's a weird feeling right now in Duke for me. And I think we lost Kev. He froze on us, but this Duke team, it just feels like it's and obviously this is Shire's first year and all that, but I don't know. This is just not a team that I'm overly excited about that they could be a national championship level team. I don't know. It just especially if Lepowski's not taking over and all that. I mean, and then we didn't defend. We did not defend at all. Appleby went off. Carr, Hildreth. They all did their thing against us. Is absolutely dominated. I mean, I know he got like 8 turnovers and all that, but he was able to do whatever he wanted against us. At will. At will. And just not something. And this is a team that just lost by 24 to Rutgers. And even though Rutgers has kind of been, another surprising team this year, but and we're gonna try to get Kev back. Kev Power got shut off. So we're gonna get Kev back as soon as possible. But make sure Kev get back. But yeah, this Duke team it's been worrying me, man. I'm worried. I thought I wouldn't be worried. Last time we were on the show, I thought, okay, maybe I was just being a little over too much. But it's man, I don't know. This Duke team is, and I remember, I think Jeff Goodman was talking about Duke earlier, preseason, and he said, I think where Duke is ranked because they're Duke. But if we just took if we just forget about rankings, I don't think I would even have them as a ranked team. And a lot of people are like, well, how can you say that? Like, it's kind of wild, but it's like, you think about it, it's like, and I've said this before with Kev, they don't have that Paulo Banchero. They don't have that Jason Tatum. They don't have that Zion Williamson or even RJ Barrett, on this team right now. So, it's it's one loss, and maybe I'm just overreacting and all that, but it just feels like it's just the feeling of this team. I think they'll make the tournament and all that, and but I don't know if they'll win the ACC. I don't know if that's because the ACC is we talked about the ACC being up and down, but we're seeing Virginia Tech, North Carolina State solid. There's no guarantee that the Duke will be like a top 3 or 4 seed in the ACC. Miami too, like so it's like Miami Duke's gonna have to figure out. But like I said, Tariq Whitehead and Derek Lively having injuries doesn't help. Because let's be real, Tariq Whitehead was supposed to be their guy. Tariq Whitehead was supposed to be their Jason Tatum, and that was what we expected. So that's why there was some optimism coming in. But once he had the injury, and we've seen, he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And then Derek Lively's been up and down, and you just wonder, like, are they going to figure it out? Because are they going to be able to figure it out? So it's some concerning things. Definitely some concerning things, in Duke. They got to figure out Lively though, because I feel like he could be. It just, like I said, I understand the injuries and all, but I feel like they got to figure him out, because if they get him going, that's such a big presence to have a guy like that can move, and there's more to his game than what we see, and that's the thing. Like he can shoot it a little bit. I'm not saying he's gonna be a sniper, but like there's more to his game. I just think it's Shire just trying to figure things out. But hopefully they can get him get him going, because I think that's very important, because they need size. They need to be able to have a shot blocker down low. And obviously with Derek's probably have more injury bug than Lively and all that. So and Derek's very important, because if we can get a healthy Derek, I think I feel more confident. But I don't know if Derek's going to be healthy for the year. And this is a guy who's a potential. I know some people who had them as their third prospect. And he played solid against Maryland Eastern Shore. I didn't know that was a real school, to be honest. I didn't know Maryland Eastern Shore was a real school. I learned a lot about random schools this year. Like Duke played USC Upstate, I think they played, but I digress. But Derek's important, man, because he played solid against Maryland Eastern. Had 15. Looked at, and then even we go back to when they played. Who were they playing? Xavier. When they played Xavier, there were some moments where he looked really good. But they got to be able to get him healthy if they can have any chance to do any damage once we get to the tournament. So that's going to be important. That's going to be important if they get those guys healthy. But if those guys aren't healthy, you gotta figure it out. You gotta see who's going to step up, and it just feels like Proctor at moments looks like he's that good, that guy, and then there's moments where he's like, whoa, that this isn't good, And Proctor's another guy that people kind of like this, maybe in that second round range, So there's some things that they got to figure out at Duke, and like I said, it's expected it's the first year at Shire, but the expectation of Duke is always going to be, national championship or at least getting to the Final Four and all that. But or excuse me, but definitely got to figure some things out. Defensively, they just weren't really good against Wake Forest. They just too many guys were able to just get their own shot. Too many guys would just be able to get the shown shot and get to the cup and all that. So they gotta, obviously not having that presence of Derek Lively is going to be that. But um, they missed what they missed almost 23s, 19 threes. Fopowski, 0 6 from 3. It's just not going to get done. Proctor and Grandison, and Grandison's kind of been disappointing. You know, um, he's been really disappointing. you know, I thought adding him was going to be huge, but it shows you, just the level like not even the level of competition, but just playing at Duke is just a different ball. It's just a different animal and all that. And I thought he would be a vet because I knew this team was going to be super young. There would be a veteran presence that we need, and he just hasn't. He hasn't lived up. This hasn't. We're talking about look. Got 5 points against Wake Forest. Before that, 5 points, 3 points. Had a little stretch, 2-game stretch against BC and Ohio State. 10-9, where you're like, okay, maybe he's finally coming on, but they're definitely been disappointed. I think there's just, and I don't know if it's just, the roster construction, maybe just not picking the right guys, which, happens. I mean, or coaching, it's probably a little bit of both right now, but I don't want to overreact too much, after just one loss versus Wake. But it's disappointing, and that's just kind of how my feeling. It's been this team all year, especially if they got these injuries and all that. But Wake's better than expected. They're a solid team, and they beat Wisconsin this year. So maybe they just lost to a team that's just better than we expected. So that can also be it too. But Duke going forward, they got Florida State coming up. Obviously, Florida State has just been an absolute disaster this year. 4-10. So, I'm not gonna chalk up a win there, but and then they got North Carolina State. That's going to be a tough one. That's going to be a tough one for sure. North Carolina State's really good, and they got someone who's an absolute dog in Terquavion Smith. Terquavion, someone that maybe was a first round pick last year is another dude that definitely could be there again. And they shoot that three. They got 3 guys shooting 37% from 3. The 3 best players, Joyner and Marcel. Casey Marcel can light it up, light that thing up. So they're led by their 2 seniors, and obviously Trevor Smith. That's going to be a tough battle. So you got to figure things out. But I kind of that was my expectation to do. Kind of just being okay. I think that this is going to be an okay year. It's going to be a figure out things year, and when you don't have that Paolo type player that you could take over, we thought it was Derek, and let's just hope Derek gets back. I think he had those qualities to take over games, and we got to get him healthy. It kind of feels like with AJ Griffin last year, just with the injury bugs, and we've had kind of guys like that. I remember Harry Giles kind of situation, Jalen Johnson. So we've had situations where guys come in with injuries and all that, and they just never get right. Those guys never got right, and I don't know if Derek's gonna get right. I don't know if he's gonna get right. So hopefully he gets back on track, and we get him right because he's gonna be an important piece, and lively too down the stretch, for this Duke team to do some stuff. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if Kev's coming back. I don't know if Kev's coming back on the pod. Has some technical difficulties. I don't even, power went out. So hopefully, if he can get the power back on, we'll get him on. But we weren't going to go on much too longer on the show. But, we got into a lot of stuff today. Got into the whole Brett Underwood stuff. And that, that's that wild presser. UNC, if they're back, playing solid again. But, we'll see that. UConn, and we're gonna get into and maybe we'll probably do a bonus show. Yeah, maybe we'll do a bonus show, and talk about UConn and Purdue without. But I don't know if Kev's gonna come back, but I'll end it there. I'll wrap it up there. Another great show. Get a Bug podcast. I appreciate everyone who listens and tunes in. Great feedback we've gotten from this show. Appreciate all the love and all that. But you can follow me Off the Ball Pod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter is much more most active, and hit me up. Let's talk ball. I'm gonna get Kevo's exact at his Twitter is Easy Money Kev 7. You can hit him up there. I don't know his IG. So I don't know his IG. So, but you can find him. He'll probably have it on his Twitter page. Find him. He's one of the best, and that's one thing I'm gonna give him a show love to him. I love college ball. I feel like I know enough to definitely have great conversations, talk ball, but I don't know ball like college ball like him. I don't know college ball like him. He's definitely one of the best college basketball heads I've ever interacted with, and I think that's why the show works. Makes me look better than what I am with my knowledge and all that. But make sure to follow him, and because he has a lot of great takes and all that, and but definitely one of the best college hoop heads I've definitely interacted with, for sure, man. He's definitely, and that's why I want to do this podcast with him, because he is that good at at covering the game of college basketball. So excuse me, cough, man. New York City, man, it's too cold right here now. Got the throat and everything. My throat is killing me. So keep drinking water. My throat's dry and all that, so won't talk too much, but appreciate it. Like I said, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. Apple, leave us a sub, drop a 5-star rating, leave a comment, helps out the show a lot. Off the Ball Podcast, also check out my podcast, Off the Ball Podcast. Check that out. Same thing. Make sure the YouTube channel, hit us a like, hit us a sub. Little by little, we're growing. We've made a lot of strides in the last few weeks, so make sure to hit that sub. But I'm Off the Ball Network, my network. Go to offtheballnetwork.com. Check out all the great sponsors. Got NordVPN, also a sponsorship. Go check out the links I'm gonna have drop down below. But on that note, be well, be safe, take care. Peace out, guys. Get a bucket.